Thank you everyone for joining us today for our GE Club. So just to begin, I'll explain a little bit about MDPI. So at MDPI, we are a pioneer in scholarly open access publishing, and MDPI has supported academic community since 1996. So we're based in Basel, Switzerland, and MDPI has a mission to foster open scientific exchange in all forms across all disciplines. We have over 478 different diverse and open access journals, including 469 that have been peer-reviewed and 9 conference journals. We are supported by more than 295,000 academic experts who share our missions, values, and commitment to providing high-quality service for our authors. So I just want to describe some of the journals that we're here today with. So we're here firstly with Audiology Research, which is an international scientific peer-reviewed open access journal on audiology and neurotology, published bi-monthly online by MDPI. We're also here with our journal Social Sciences. This is an international open access journal with rapid peer review, which publishes work from a wide range of fields, including anthropology, criminology, economics, education, geography, history, law, linguistics, etc., and is published monthly online by MDPI. And finally, we're here with our journal Symmetry, which is also an international peer-reviewed open access journal covering research on symmetry, asymmetry phenomena, wherever they occur in all aspects of natural sciences. And this is also published monthly online by MDPI. So just to describe the program that we have here today, so I'm beginning with the introduction, and then I'll hand over to Dr. David Campbell, and then following this, it'll be Dr. Roberto Teggi, and finally, Dr. Konstantin Ziotas. And finally, I'll finish up, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, please post them in the chat, and we can talk through them at the end. And as I mentioned, we have a Q&A box, so please feel free to post your messages here. And just to describe our speakers, so we have Dr. David Campbell first from the University of Vienna, and then we have Dr. Roberto Teggi from the San Raffaele Scientific Institute in Italy, and finally Dr. Konstantin Ziotas from the University of Patras in Greece. And then we have me. My name is Mary. I'm from MDPI, and I will be the host of the webinar. So that's all from me. I'll hop over to Dr. David, if you can begin your presentation.
Yes, many thanks, Mary Sullivan. I prepared a PowerPoint, which is also going to lead us through. Yes, well, I'm having about 20 minutes in time. Again, many thanks, Mary Sullivan, for the kind introduction. The topic is the process of designing and implementing a conceptually driving special issue. I also should add that referring to the 3 journals you presented at the beginning, I'm having an experience with the social sciences, where I was leading one special issue, which now in that sense has been extended into a second edition. I also will take over in that journal a certain board mission. So in that sense, everything I'm saying now is of course also referring to my experience with social sciences, which now stretches back something like 2 years. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Yes, now this is the table of contents, and again, it's a simple presentation. So in the first part, I will talk more about the process of designing something like a special issue. In the second part, I will make some notes in that sense on the implementation process of a special issue, and then finally offering something referring to an outlook. And again, everything I'm saying now should be understood, you know, as simple propositions, maybe even hypothesis, in that sense, having also something like a practical orientation. So let us move on and zoom in that sense on the first part of the process of designing. At the beginning of every special issue, in that sense, of course, what is being required is the setup of a theme, something like a topical framing. So in that sense, several considerations, which of course must be put into balance, and this is of course the challenging part, but of course also the very interesting. A theme obviously should have a consistency, yes. So I mean, it cannot be in that sense something about everything everywhere, but in that sense, you want to bring something together. And here again, we are facing the first challenge in that sense. So I would argue a theme should have something like a certain deepness, in that sense, focusing on something which should, in that sense, be explained in greater detail, as an example. At the same time, however, I think a theme should not be too narrowly defined. Yes. So it's culminating in something like the art of bringing together deepness and breadth. And this, of course, is not trivial and not simple. It's in that sense the one first big challenge, but I think it's something very important. Because if your theme in that sense is too narrowly defined, I think you run into the risk in that sense of finding a sufficient number of manuscript submissions to your topic. If we, in that sense, then go on the topical framing, next slide, please. And here is so to say, in that sense, I would argue that the next pair of challenges. So on the one hand, a topic must be feasible to be addressed by articles. Yes. Feasible means there's a chance you will find authors out in the world who are, in that sense, in a position really to work on articles that are going to tackle, in that sense, your topic. Yes. So it's probably should be more than just a simple or basic idea. At the same time, again, and this is so to say the other challenging part. Of course, a topic should be interesting. Yes. Now, what does it mean? Interesting. This, of course, may vary from discipline, etc., etc. But it should be challenging the topic. It should be igniting. It should, in that sense, catch the interest of scholarly communities. Yes, because in that sense, if it's interesting, or a different word may be relevant, but again, relevant is not identical with interesting, but of course it overlaps. Yes, this provides then the option, the possibility that really sort of that this special issue with the released articles in that sense is going to feed into has the chance to feed into an international discourse and an international narratives. The next slide, please. It's also in that sense about the geographic spread, as we just talked about the depth and the broadness before. This also means the special issue should be designed in a way really to be very broad in its geographic appealingness. Yes, culminating or coming down basically that it has something like an international appeal is, but this at the same time referring to the global north as well as to the global south, so that basically independent of the geographic address of an author, so to say, they all in principle, so to say, could submit this. This, of course, then means also how you define a topic, and again, very much in that sense in the social sciences, if we want to talk about the journal social sciences. I mean, the social sciences, of course, often would have some locality. Okay, you can talk about I don't know, the national political system in France, in Germany, in China, and in Japan. But the point would be to say, is there a way to develop the topic so that in that sense scholars all over could apply. The next slide. This again, I think, is another very important aspect. Again, so to say, Did we jump maybe too fast? Did we jump too fast? Yes, I think we all jumped that slide, yes. And this means in that sense, how do I set up a special issue in a way that the article is delivered capable, so to say, in principle, referring to the empirical side and the conceptual or theoretical side. Now, in the short run, one could argue empirical data very interesting, they're very relevant. So in that sense, if the submitted articles in that sense are having, so to say, a reference to empirical information, this is going to create interest. On the other, of course, empirical data are also facing a problem, and the problem is that they may outdate, yes. So this means if an article is very empirical, this will create maybe a short-term interest, yes, but then what happens, so to say, in the long run, yes. And I think in the long run, it's concepts or more abstractly formulated theories that actually prevail, I mean, particularly in the social sciences, yes. So this means that the call should be, or the special issue should be developed in a way of actually attracting an empirical interest and a theoretical interest, and how these, so to say, can be brought again in a balance. Yes, I mean, one way would be maybe to articulate an interest. The article should have, on the one hand, a conceptual framework, yes, which in that sense has the chance to be appealing over a longer period of time. Maybe theories never outdate, yes. I mean, they evolve, but in that sense, maybe they never outdate. And at the same time, how then this conceptual framework could be tied into specific empirical information. Yes. The empirical information is going to outdate, but this, of course, is something normal or natural. But then the conceptual framework may make this article interesting, so to say, in a long run perspective. Yes. And then, of course, the way how you define this conceptual framing then is also adding to what we just talked before. It's the geographical spread. So let's say in that sense, you articulate questions which are not only for particular national or local interest of one country, but in that sense, generally appealing. And again, so to say that articles being submitted have a chance on the one hand, maybe to focus empirically on something in the depth, but at the same time to provide something like a conceptual framework of analysis, which in that sense goes into the broadness. Okay, this, so to say, is now the first third of the presentation. Now let us move on to the second part. So please, moving on to the to the slide number 7 about the implementation of a special issue. I think in that sense, now this is again, of course, also from the perspective of an editor, a collection of editors for special issue. In that sense, to emphasize that the writing or the production of an article is not a one-time point of event, but in that sense, to see this as a process. As a process, so to say, requires that the longer loops, or possible loops of interaction between the editor on the one hand of a special issue, and then authors being interested to submit an article, but of course also then authors who have submitted an article. Yes. Now, to begin with, I think at this point, of course, it's also crucial that yes, that in the description of the special issues, that the editor in that sense is expressing explicitly that he would like to be contacted by potential authors. In that sense, that authors, of course, then would submit something like an abstract, at least the draft of an abstract. Yes, then we would have the first feedback loop between the special issue editor and the potential authors. In addition, is also, I think, a point to consider, at least to offer from an editor's perspective, is that authors may want to submit to the editor directly, let's say, a draft version of an article. This again, so to say, provides the possibility to give you some feedback. And then, of course, then there's the final process, then where the authors in that sense submit. And then, of course, it also goes, it goes all its way, so to say, into the peer review process. I mean, once, so to say, peers have placed their feedback, so to say, the review assessment, maybe also the editor, so to say, can line up with authors if they're interested and provide some additional insights. I think also, and this refers to my long experience with academic writing and academic publishing. In this process of feedback, of course, also the editor, so to say, can communicate back to authors or potential authors, also to consider something like a good co-author or multi-author approach or policy or strategy, is meaning that, let's say, if an editor is having the opinion that the first version of a draft may express some weaknesses, whether or not, so to say, author would want to consider to extend their authorship team, maybe bringing in additional, co-authors in that sense to fill here some gaps, which in that sense may be the case. Let us then please move on to the next slide. So in addition to this more direct interaction between the authors who in that sense have an interest in the editor, I think it's important to note the importance that there is in that sense a good and a close cooperation between the editor of the special issue and the journal management is. I mean, so far, I must say, I experienced a very good and very positive experience with the MDPI management, of course, particularly in the context of the journal Social Sciences, with which, so to say, I've worked together in that sense. I sort of express my thanks. I mean, this one headquarter thing is locally set up in Beijing, in China, and I think they work on a highly professional level. Yes, in that sense, if I send an email from Europe, which is half on the other side of the globe, and of course, then there's the differences in the time zones. If I send it off in the afternoon, and I open my email box in the morning the next day, most likely already I will have received a very good and qualified feedback. Now, generally speaking, it is of course important that if once a call in that sense has been posted to the website of the journal, it means obviously to spread the information about this call. I mean, the different social media tools, and again, here could be something like a division of labor between the editor and the journal management. I mean, the journal management, on the one hand, of course, can go out, so to say, more generally speaking, using social media tools, maybe some data sets or whatsoever retrieved from their information. But on the other hand, I think it is just as important that the editor himself is also going out and going through her or his personal networks, communities, etc. And in that sense, really to address potential authors directly and personally. Yes. Probably in that sense, even, yes, finally, if one is referring back to one's experience, that this, so to say, this personal contacting is just as important, to put it in that sense, cautiously, just as important as the general contacting, so to say, via those social media tools. Yes. And the likeliness, of course, that authors, that persons that are willing to consider to submit an article is much, much higher if they were really personally contacted by the editors. And in that sense, I really would call it a personal contacting, yes. So if an editor just is using a general, template for contacting authors in his communities, people are going to realize this is, and the effect of, I mean, of course, you can use standardized elements in all of these contacting, but I really would, in that sense, provide an explanation and why you, as an editor, are referring now to this concrete person. Yes. So, I mean, one way of justification would be a rationalization to say, well, referring, so to say, to the research work you've carried out as an example, this or that publication would you want to consider? And of course, I would be open to any feedbacks and further feedback. Yes. So this, I think, is something very, very important. Okay, so we finished now the second part of the presentation. Mary Sullivan, I think I'm still in the time, correct? I would have something maybe like a few more minutes. Do you see
Yeah,
this correctly?
you still
Yes.
have 10 or more minutes if you have anything else that you want
Well,
to
I don't think I would, so to say, need, so to say, that much, yes,
cover.
but I would want to provide, if we go now, I think it's the slide, no, yes, the slide number 9. And this is in that sense, so to say, so to say, now my experience with the journal Social Sciences. So I was designing and accompanying there a special issue with the title Democracy, Politics and Innovation and Social Integration in the Contemporary World. Yes. So the setup of this special issue is also a very close process, so to say, of cooperation between me and the management of social sciences. I think even the first initiative in that sense came from the management. In that sense, were contacting me if I would be interested, so to say, to lead a special issue. They also, in that sense, had proposed a first draft title. It took me then a longer time to rethink this car, so this was not something which was finished in a month. I think in that sense, maybe it took a quarter of a year or maybe even, so to say, longer, because I thought this was a very interesting topic, yes, but of course I had to invest, so to say, several ideas, and of course there was a communication going back and forth. Now this call, in the meantime, so to say, has been closed. I think it has been closed. This was by the end of May this year meaning 25, but I think about still 2 or 3 article submissions still in the review process. I would say this was, so to say, a highly successful call. We had until now about, I think, 13 or 14 papers finally being published. I went to the website of that special issue. I mean, this is, again, also the link you see here. And as of, so to say, as of now in the second half of July, it almost created, so to say, 60,000 views. Yes. So, but this, I would say, it was a call having created attention, having created several successful submissions. And again, so to say, what I just said before about the process of designing and implementing a special issue, this is in that sense very much based on my experience with that particular call. Because, I mean, on the one hand, of course, every call is having, so to say, a final closing date, is a final closing date. So also this call at one point had to be closed. However, we were confronted with the situation that continuously, so to say, there was interest expressed in, so to say, submitting, articles for the papers, that then the decision was being taken by the management, but of course also again in close coordination, consultation with me, that the decision was taken to now roll out a second edition of this call. Yes. Now, if you please can move on to the next slide. Is so I would say the second edition, so to say, was an expression of the success of this call, and so that we can call now the call its first edition, which was the slide before, and it was in that sense shifted over into a second edition. Yes. Now again, so to say, one sees here the link. Also, again, as I would like to emphasize, because we're having a wider community, so to say, of webinar attendees, or participants. Now, the submission deadline of that second edition call is December 31st. But again, as is being emphasized here, not of 25, but of 26. So this means this is not really call very much at the beginning and unfolding. And it, in that sense, explicitly, of course, refers to the first edition, but it tried to sort of say, integrate the first edition to a little bit a broader framing. So as you can see, the title is on the one hand very similar, but there are nuances. So now the title being Democracy, Politics and Innovation, Social Integration and Global Politics in the Contemporary World. Yes. So the point is really to say we really want to bring in this also this global perspective, so to say, more of global politics. So we are going to again. So I mean, this call just so to say has been placed this month, and again this month there was large parts on family vacation in France. So we just begin to communicate out this call on the one hand, more generally speaking, via social media tools, but then of course also I as an editor will address, so to say, concrete persons. Yes. But in that sense, I also would spread this information to all participants, so to say, of this webinar, that please, so to say, go to the website of the call, read through its description, make a personal assessment whether or not this would interest you. If so, so to say, please feel free to contact me. And again, the contact information is on the website. Again, I also was saying that this presentation, as you see it here, in that sense, of course, please also Mary Sullivan, and in that sense, the whole team who has organized this webinar, please also feel free to share this, of course, with the participants. Now, if I go on to the next slide, so this is, so to say, then again, this one banner, again, referring to this call more closely, and then the next slide, which in that sense is the final slide. I believe this is also now the 20th minute of my talk, so to say, is again, so to say, here it's another banner in a PowerPoint format, so to say, again, a short description of this call. But again, I think what would make most sense, please, of course, go directly to the website, because this is just a summary of the information, because there on the website, so to say, you'll see the whole description. We're also going to implement in the website of the second edition a reference link to the first edition, yes, so that everybody who's interested to submit an article can, of course, then also go into the first edition, just see what has been published. Again, all these articles are public access anyway, yes. So there may also be the option this time that in the reference to what has been published in the first edition could act as a point of conceptual reference in thinking of designing an article submission for the second edition. This is, so to say, then the final slide. Again, Mary Sullivan, many thanks for having steered through the slides of this presentation in such a perfect way. I will, of course, stop here. It's the minute 20. And in that sense, hand over back to your narration of our whole webinar today.
Thank you very much, David. That was a really informative talk. Now we have next up Dr. Roberto Tegui. So we can begin your section of the presentation.
My presentation, more or less, will say the same things as Professor Campbell told, with some differences, a more skeptic point of view about the special issues in general. And start share, yes. Above all, I had the opportunity of So I had the opportunity of co-edit a special issue together with Alexander Bisdorf. I have to say I had other experiences with other editors, Springers above all. I am a clinician. I am above all involved in clinical research, and inner ear is the field of my research. Editing a special issue is a serious commitment, but can be a very rewarding experience. Just to begin, I should say that MDPI staff are supportive and are very good in foreseeing any problems. They also encourage submission for special new special issues. We can go on. First, I try to explain why a guest editor. He's on the top of specialists in a single thing. That is to say, you may be a fantastic professional. You can have a lot of publications in different fields, but an expert is a person with a high number of publication in a specific field. In my case, I think I have 80, 90 at the moment papers only on inner ear disorders. So a specialist is invited by the journal for proposing to an editor a special issue. He must be an expert in a special field, and he have to curate or edit papers on a specific topic. The next one, please. I have to admit, in some slides, I tried to summarize what I've read, for example, with MDPI, with Elsevier, and so. I try to put in bold letters the important point. So the expert must have a proven publication record, that is to say, a history of publication in the research area relevant to the proposed special issue. He must have a professional qualifications, that is to say, credentials that align with the research area and the proposed topic. I think it's much more important, for example, the number of presentation you make in important international congresses on the topic. Possibly an institutional affiliation, that is to say, a verifiable position within an academic or research institute. I belong to, I think, the most important hospital in Italy, San Raffaele Hospital in Milano. At present, the one proposing the wider number of publications in Italy. He must have a clear vision, that is to say, a well-developed ideas and objectives for the special issues. This is a positive and a negative point, because I may have a clear vision of one thing. For example, I study a lot the vertigo, above all vertigo, repetitive vertigo, episodic vertigo. I think in some cases episodic vertigo can be shared in subgroups. I think there will be 2-3 people in the world which I share my ideas, but I'm not sure most specialists have the same ideas as I have. The other one, please. Above all, he must have, the guest editor, an active role. He has to propose an idea linking different possible contribution. And I try to reply to the question why we need a special issue. And the explanation is underlined. It is focused and in depth in a specific topic within a journal scope. Offer a curated collection of high quality articles, and in this the active role of the guest editor is very important. This curated approach allows a more targeted exploration of the subject. On the other side, in my idea, often you have to find authors sharing your ideas, or perhaps having ideas completely different from yours. The next one, please. So, selecting a topic, I think it's the most important point for the success of a special issue. I simply try to read what it's written in all journals, MDPI, as well as Elsevier, Springer, or Frontiers. Choosing the right topic for a special issue is crucial for the success. As a guest editor, you should aim to identify topics that are timely, relevant, and have the potential to make a significant impact in your field. Some guidelines, for example, in fields experiencing significant progress in new technologies or techniques, in highly cited research area, domains with a substantial volume of influential and frequently cited studies, emerging research frontiers, new and innovative areas of research, introducing groundbreaking concepts, publicly engaging topics, subjects that capture significant public interest and attention. I think this point is very important above all for the journal. The journal must somehow rely on how many people cite a certain work. Probably innovative perspective and established practices, a fresh viewpoint and novel approaches to well-established methodologies are also required. Possibly interdisciplinary research topics that bridge multiple disciplines, encouraging collaborative and comprehensive research themes that have been discussed at major academic conferences. Is it all? Probably it's not so easy. When I read everything, my first idea was the country of utopia. It's not so easy to have all points or a part of these points all present. So if you want to propose a special issue, you have a time frame. Above all, you must make a proposal which may be approved by the chief editor. The guest editor outlines details after the chief editor say that maybe a good idea your special issue. Then you have to invite authors. That's another important striking point. You must decide if the submission they propose are congruous for your purpose. That is to say, maybe you ask someone, I have a special issue on episodic vertigo. Have you anything about Meniere disease, on differences between Meniere disease, vestibular migraine? Or what do you think about inner ear disorders? But I'm sorry, I don't have any new data about that. If you want, I have a beautiful work, above all on zoster in the inner ear. You are still on the idea to include me or not? Then it's important the editorial system, and I have to say it's MDPI, it's very professional in this. because they give advices. They say when someone proposed something, if there is any weak point, and all that is a great help for the chief editor. Then the peer review. Maybe someone thinks if I propose in a special issue, maybe the peer review will be more easy. It's not so. Papers must pass a peer review, and the chief editor is the final decision if you have to publish or not the work. After all, you are ready for publication, after all these passages. Another one, please. Another slide. So your task, choosing authors, commissioning collaborations, following the proposal, only chief editor on the final, on the other part, the final decision if the work can be accepted. Choosing authors, maybe you propose to 20 authors and you receive a positive answer only on them, from then 10 of them. Commissioning collaboration and following the proposal. The point is, do they have specific work for what you want to publish or not? Once I had a talk with Professor Perrin, told me he receives 10 proposals for special issues a day. That is really impossible to follow all these works. The next one, please. The guest editors have the responsibility of defining the subject matter and role of every article in the issue. Don't leave articles to the discretion of authors, that is to say, drive them. I need an article on this particular point of view. Otherwise, you can decide to publish also review articles, which in my idea is less alluring for readers. You have to guide them. It's very difficult because every author more or less is somehow a chief. He thinks, I have this idea, you want my article, this is the article. I don't want to change a single word in what I wrote. Team issue must have a cohesion, another difficult point. Must cover all angles of the topic, possibly because it's very difficult to find works covering all works. For example, the Meniere disease, the new ideas about what is Meniere disease, the relationship between Meniere disease and hydrops, the relationship, the overlap between the Meniere disease and vestibular migraine. What is vestibular migraine? Has some weak point, the definition of the vestibular migraine. And finally, avoid overlap, which is also difficult. My idea, I published a handbook by Springer, and two authors more or less wrote the same things with ideas a little different, which is very embarrassing to say. You just avoid this part because another author included this topic in his chapter. The other one, the first passage is an invitation letter. You must explain the purpose of the special issue, why you ask them the contribution. Above all, I think you are the most important, one of the most important authors in this work. I will be more than happy if. And you have to tell them the value and benefits of the contribution. I summarized in metrics, indexation, affiliation that increase visibility, but you also have to explain in a clear way the criteria for papers and expectations, the deadline, and the cost compensation for the work. In my experience for my special issue, which is still open. So if anyone has the idea of writing something on episodic vertigo, is still ongoing, the possibility of include the paper. I had 6 no-charge papers, but the other had a commission to pay. So the next one, you also have benefits. I try to summarize them. You publish with peers, harness your network and benefit from multiple expert perspective on the same issue, leading to synergies and powerful cross-examination of the themes under consideration. You have a positive citation impact, probably because articles published in a special issue are often cited more frequently than articles published in a regular issue. Special content articles attract 20% more citations in the first 24 months than articles published in a regular issue. I have a personal doubt on this because when I try to write a work and include references, more or less I go on PubMed, I try papers, and I don't care so much if they are published in a regular, on a special issue, but maybe this is a problem of mine. A topic-specific research, you can publish more in-depth research on a given topic that isn't frequently possible in a regular journal issue. You have a faster publication time. Special issue articles are often published more quickly than regular articles. They have a longer term impact for your work. Special issues offer longer term impact as your article collection means readers will easily find your work. Another question mark on this point for me. And you have career opportunities. Working on a special issue as a guest editor may be an opportunity to become to have other works on the same in the same editor in which you produced the work. The next, please. You have responsibilities. It's not so easy. A special issue focus on a specific area of research that has a broad appeal and falls within the aim and scope of the journal. It can also provide an excellent opportunity to review a particular theme, examine previously unaddressed aspects, propose and develop new approaches, exchange perspectives, and encourage new lines of research. That is important, but the guest editor and the author in that must work as a team, and this is very difficult, has been very difficult in my experience. This is where the guest editor comes in. Guest editors play a vital role in curating high quality contribution on a particular topic and driving the editorial review process for special issue publication. In general, the roles and responsibilities of a guest editors include refining the topic and setting out the importance of the area on which the special issue will focus, identifying papers and inviting potential authors for possible inclusion in the special issue with the help of Elsevier. Means I copied this from Elsevier, but I can guarantee are the same for Springer, MDPI, and Frontiers. Peer review, remember, is not your task. All papers submitted must have a peer review, and the peer review is above all a work of the chief editor. So the next one, you must also setting the following time frame. It is to say, if a work is late, you have to write, please, can you send me the work within 1 month, 2 months? No, not over. Just this to ensure timely submission and publication. You have to cooperate with the journal editor and any other guest editors for the special issue that respect to the identification invitation to author to contribute to the special issue and responding to potential author queries with regard to the special issue. It is important to have a good link with the journal editor because it's a work that must be done together. And in my experience, MDPI is very professional in this. Using your subject matter expertise to manage the initial peer review process. That is to say, you receive a work, you have to read. If you think it's not worth for a peer review, you can reject by yourself at the beginning. But remember, the final decision will be made by the editor-in-chief of the journal. You can provide the running order of articles, an editorial to summarize the special issue, and assisting with any further information requested by the editorial team to ensure completeness of the special issue. And finally, I want to go on this because Professor Campbell had a long talk on this, promote your special issue. When finished, the promoting is a task of yours. The next one. Yeah, the pitfalls. Not everything is completely, how can I say? There are pitfalls, yes. There are a great number of special issues. That is to say, you have to choose if participate at one or another. On the other side, you do not have so many works to publish, and yes, probably you can propose a special issue to 20 different authors. At the end, have 8, 10 positive responses. The increase in guest edited articles collection has raised concerns about the quality of content. If you have to finish a special issue in some moment, you can accept articles, papers that are not so important, but they can complete your special issue. Authors often see the possibility to increase the self-citations. MDPI is very pay a great attention in this. In the next 10 days, I've seen 2 works with a high number of self-citations, and you have to decide if they are necessary or they have to be decreased because not potentially necessary for the work. There is also the problem of cross-citation. That is to say, I cite your work and you cite mine. They are not self-citation, but in every case, they arise ethical conditions that they are not normal. So finally, how many responders among the invited authors? I also say that I have to say by myself, I'm not an important name above all, but I'm not able to write works only for special issues because, for example, I have an ongoing work. I want to finish this one, and the time frame for the submission is too short. I'm unable to complete the task. Maybe the final one. This have arisen some weak points. In some cases, and for some editors, there is a compromised peer review. Special issues often face risks of manipulated, inadequate peer review. You have to be fast in peer review, particularly when guest editors or journals rush to meet deadlines or require minimum paper quantities. This can lead to acceptance of lower quality or fraudulent papers, damaging the journal credibility. ethical vulnerabilities, issues like orchestrated paper mills, fake reviewers, citation cartels, and conflicts of interest among guest editors are increasingly reported and must be avoided. Again, I must say MDPI is a serious editor. Overshadowing regular content, excessive focus on special issues may imbalance the journal content ratio. These, in my idea, are the weak point for the special issue. The last one. Yeah, I think MDPI, it's a very correct journal. They can help you strictly in handling peer review, and they're really professional in this. If there are a high citation from the authors, they tell you, and you can decide to ask authors to remove a part of this. You will receive an email for every passage, and the journal has enough resources to follow you in all processes. That's important, resources, otherwise you are somehow a boat in the midst of a sea. They always try to avoid previously reported pitfalls, above all in peer review process and citation, and above all, decide costs for the special issue. And I have a last thing to say, just avoid editors, journals with no impact factor. They are looking for special issues. They try to publish special issues. More or less, I have an experience of this. They are completely abandoned after the publication. I think I finished. The next one, I tried some equilibrism in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roberto. And now we will move on to Dr. Constantine Ziota. So I will share your screen, your slides for you.
Okay, fine. First, I like to say you share my, yes, thank you. I start, before starting with my three slides, I want to say that I found very interesting the two speakers before me, Professor Campbell and Teggy. And as you will see, I am I'm finishing one special issue, and I go to a second one. The common thing in both, and maybe in another one, is that I address cross-disciplinary issues. So this has been mentioned by Professor Campbell as indirect seeing somewhere to mix things. And I think Professor Tegli said that about interdisciplinary explicitly. So my topic is addressed from the content I'm working on to cross-disciplinary. So here I like to say in advance that I find important to address as authors renowned contributors. And I was surprised from my first experience that all renowned people I have addressed, they have replied positive. I was really surprised, and this take it as a compliment for MDPI. And then the help by MDPI, I agree, it is real, and they help you when you ask something immediately. The cost issue mentioned by Professor Teggi, I think, is real. Maybe it is a little high. You invite someone to write something in a special issue, and then comes the bill. This is a psychological issue the journal should think about. And the last thing is, I don't know if one wants to use a figure from another paper or a table. If usually a feature. This should be the task by the journal. I mean, if I start asking around the copyright to get the okay from the author or the contact person, I am sending to the journal, and then you go forth and back until you arrive. I think I succeeded in my life only once to get a copyright for a feature. I think this should be a topic for the journal, and it is good to show not only your work but also the work of other people who work in the same field, and to take it is something else to mention another work with one sentence or three sentences than to put also one feature of the other people have before you. So these are my general comments triggered by the two speakers before me. And now I go to my slide. There are not many, don't worry. We will be in time, I guess. So the special issue experience so far so good, I can say, fortunately. It is practically important to start with a long deadline. This time it is a long deadline, end of 26, because also from own experience, if someone asks me to prepare something in 2 years, I'm easily I say yes, and then it is found I don't have time, because no, there is the issue with time is global. I don't need to explain here. So a long deadline is a good trick if you want to get people, good people who are by definition overbooked. Yes, my cross-disciplinary content of the special issue, the first one and also the second one, has to do with known anomalies and mysteries we see in science, not only in physics. And this is to realize that, first of all, that there are not anomalies or mysteries. Simply, we don't know how to explain them. And this is the challenge. So that's why I came up with this with two proposals for special issue for the last few years and the next few years, hopefully. Yeah, then I mentioned here this is too specific. Can you move a little bit, please, my slide? It is I find it cut. Here. Yeah. Yes. I give an example. As an example, you go to the second slide, Peter, please. I refer always to special issue. For example, even it is from 15th of July, while I was preparing for this presentation, it came a paper up in the archives, The Mysterious Missing Ingredient of Highest Energy Cosmic Rays. It happens to know since long time that the very high energy cosmic rays, they have a problem just with their very high ultra high energy they measure. So here comes someone now and it tells you there is a mystery there. It is a mystery there. And it is, for me, it was an information, if you want, that really there is a mystery which is insisting still, I would say, since 20, 30 years or so. And then another thing which came up and I was involved was that about dark matter and the dark universe, and combining dark matter, dark energy with cosmic rays. So there is also an interference between various fields, which usually arrive to that people define, not only yourself, but other people before you
Thank you very much.
your attendance.
Thank you. And just to finish up, I'll share my screen and we'll have the last presentation. And so my talk will focus on an introduction to special issues and kind of summarize what we've kind of talked about here today. So just to begin about MDPI, we foster open scientific exchange in all forms across all disciplines. So we're an international team of nearly 7,000 employees in 21 offices across 12 countries, around 3 continents. And we have our head office in Basel, Switzerland. In terms of some numbers for MDPI, so in 2024, we received nearly 600,000 submissions, and we had worked with over 215,000 different reviewers and are partnered with 900 different societies, etc. And in terms of the numbers for our authors can expect their manuscript published in around 41 days and expect a decision in around 17 days, whether this goes for major or minor or the paper is rejected within this time frame. So what is a special issue? A special issue is a collection of papers centered around a subject of special interest. So the submissions into a special issue follow the same peer review process as regular papers and are published in regular issues of the journal when they're accepted. They are always labeled as belonging to a special issue and are discoverable within the collection. So when readers click on a special issue collection, they'll be able to observe all the papers published within that special issue. In terms of the special issue topic and title, these can be proposed by our special issue editors, which are internal staff members, or they can be proposed by external scholars. So if somebody has an idea for the special issue, they can always come up to the journal, so email the managing editor and ask if it's something of interest for them. And if it is, then they'll collaborate with you on that special issue. Of course, the special issue must fit the scope of the journal, and there should be no overlap with existing special issues that are currently open. Of course, the special issue title can be modified to suit the guest editor's experience and expertise. For a guest editor, these are experts who lead the special issue, so their role. So before the website is ready and the special issue is open for submissions, the guest editor will be invited to prepare a special issue summary, which we usually ask for it to be around 200 words, and also propose 6 to 10 keywords that summarize the topic of the special issue. We'll also ask them to provide some information of planned papers if they have any papers they'd like to publish, or if they have a list of potential contributors who would also like to publish a paper in the special issue. And then when the special issue is online, our guest editors are involved in pre-screening the papers just after their submission. So our guest editors make the pre-check decisions to make sure that the paper fits within the scope of the journal and there's no major errors in the paper. And they'll also make decisions on papers after peer review, or what we call first decision. Again, we would always ask our guest editors to promote the special issue if they can, whether this be at conferences that they're attending, on their website or on social media, and we will always help out how we can to help promote the special issue as well. In terms of our editorial office and how MDPI is responsible, every special issue has a special issue editor. So this is a point of contact for our guest editors. So they always have a dedicated staff member that they can contact if they have any questions or concerns, and they will help our guest editors through the process. The special issue editors will also help communicate with the authors and arrange the peer review process. So find peer reviewers to review the manuscript. Finally, as MDPI, we have our English editing service as well as our proofreading and layout services. So these teams will all prepare the manuscript for final publication within 3 days. So it's quite a speedy service that we can provide to our authors. And we also provide a simple and user-friendly interface that our authors and guest editors can use, which we call our submission system, or an acronym that we use is SUSI. And finally, we do also promote our special issues. So if we're at attendance in a conference that fits the theme of the special issue, we'll always bring some special issue flyers, and we'll post about the special issue on our journal's social medias as well to try bring some more interest to that special issue that's currently open. So these are some screen grabs of some promotional materials that we do. So on the right, we have a Journal of Clinical Medicine flyer. So this is something that we would bring to a conference if it was in the topic of JCM. And we would list all of the special issues and their deadlines and who the guest editors are. And on the left, we have a screen grab of a post that Nutraceuticals did for one of their open special issues on LinkedIn. And again, we provide the title and a direct link to the special issue so that it's very easy for viewers to click into the special issue. In terms of time frame, special issues usually run from 8 to 12 months, but of course this can be modified according to the guest editor's schedule. Sometimes of year are more busy than others. And also, importantly, we can extend the deadline. So if the special issue is coming up to the deadline and we still have some interested authors who would be interested in submitting to the special issue, but maybe their work will not be ready in time, we can extend the deadline to accommodate these authors and give them that opportunity to finalize their manuscript and submit it to the special issue. There are a number of benefits of being a guest editor. Of course, we try to make the process easy and flexible. As I mentioned, every special issue has a special issue editor who will help you and try to make the process as seamless as possible. And the editorial office as a whole will assist you with any admin tasks. So if you ever have any issues or technical issues, whatever it may be, we're always there to help as the editorial office. And as I mentioned previously, we arranged the peer review process. So we have dedicated assistant editors assigned to each manuscript, and their main role is to be the main point of contact between authors, reviewers, and guest editors. So they will be the person coordinating the whole process and answering questions that anybody might have during the process. We also prepare the manuscript for publication. So as I mentioned, we do all of the English editing and proofreading in-house at MDPI, which is quite different to many other publishers. So this is what we can attribute to our speed as well. So we try to keep everything in-house as possible. And of course, it's a simple and user-friendly submission system. And we like to promote the special issues as much as we can and at various points in the special issue timeline. Of course, as a guest editor, you gain editorial experience and an insight into behind the scenes of academic publishing. Of course, you also get to be at the forefront of exciting new research. If you're being a guest editor of maybe a hot topic, you get to see the new research that's up and coming and get an insight into what researchers are working on. Of course, as a guest editor, you're involved in the control of academic content and quality and making sure that papers published are at the highest quality possible. And as a guest editor, you also have the opportunity to network. So you might be able to communicate with scholars in the research community that you haven't worked with before, collaborated before, and it could foster new collaborations in the future. Of course, with our special issues, we try to help financially where we can. So we do sometimes provide discounts on article processing charges, and we do also try to provide some travel grants for our guest editors. So if this is something that you're interested in, I would always encourage you to email the editorial office and double check if this applies to you and how to apply for it if it's something that you're interested in. We also provide a hard copy of the special issue book if we get 8 or more submissions into the special issue, which is quite a nice thing to have. So we would always print and send this to you free of charge. And of course, the whole special issue collection is always available to observe on the website. In terms of benefits for the authors, we've noticed that papers published in special issues have greater visibility, therefore they receive more citations. And for our readers, the papers published in all open access journals are free and unrestricted. So that means that they're easily discoverable, and particularly the special issue collections of papers are very easy for readers to access, considering they're all in a topic together. So if an author has or a reader has an interest in a certain topic, it's very easy for them to read a couple of papers all together on this topic. We just have some insights from some of our guest editors and their experience. So we have here a special issue that was running cancers, and Professor Macaroni said, "My collaboration was indeed very pleasant, which was a plus on top of the professionalism of the MDPI staff." And we have another one here that was a special issue in ISPRS, and it was Professor Chalkias, and he said that I have to say that the supporting team consists of experienced professionals. My latest experience as an external editor for a special issue was great, and I was impressed from the beginning with the way the MDPI staff understood and supported my vision. We have another one here from the special issue in IGMS, and they said it was a good reputation for the journal, it was a popular topic, and the assistant from the editorial office was good. And finally, we have one from Dr. C. And this was a special issue in remote sensing. And they said, "I have been extremely impressed by how efficient the process has been and how quickly the papers have been handled. At the same time, the quality of the reviewers has generally been very high." That's all from me. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we will move on to the Q&A portion. So let me get up the questions. And of course, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please put them in the Q&A chat box. And if they're for a particular speaker, we can address them to them. So just to begin, we have a question for David Campbell. John Matthew said it was a very instructive talk. Thanks. Did you add conclusions to your special issue about democracy? If yes, will you change them for the second edition?
Well, if you refer to the papers, so to say, that were published in the first edition, in that sense, of course, there was a topical variation, and again, even if a topic for special issues is the same for all the authors, not necessarily all the authors, so to say, must arrive at the same conclusion. Yes. Now the learning process for me was in the sense that when we adapted or innovated or remodeled the description of the second edition was somehow to take into account some generalities, and I think the one was, say, to make the description of the call of the second edition, in fact, even more appealing, so to say, to the global world system. And we also added in something like global politics, so to say, into the title description of the special issue, meaning and emphasizing, so to say, that whatever then the concrete focus is of a specific article, that there's an interest that always something like a general framework of conceptual framework would be in that sense supplied with the article, but this being after a possible publication then of greater interest to something like a global audiences. But again, of course, the article is as such in the discussion part or the conclusion section, there can be, and there was, of course, variation of conclusion. Hopefully this reply, so to say, addresses the content of the question which was asked.
Thank you very much, David. And we have another question, which I think Dr. Roberto Tegui might like to answer. So the question starts with, a key role for guest editors is selecting among possible reviewers. The MDPI team does a great job of identifying and liaising with reviewers. However, the selection process for reviewers can be problematic in interdisciplinary areas. Articles for our special issue were predominantly employing qualitative methods, but there was usually a reviewer for each article nominated or backfilled by MDPI staff who used quantitative approaches. They were rejecting papers based on paradigm differences without acknowledgement that rigorous research can be done using other methods. So we would face a reviewer who specialized in species populations, reviewing a piece on experiences of citizen participation and sustainable policy. They would reject it outright, while other reviewers would often be more accepting. It took a lot of work guiding the author in how to get their work approved by the reviewers, but we succeeded. What do others do when paradigm differences become a problem, when reviewers accept taking on a review of a piece outside their field?
I've seen there are several questions about the quality of reviewers. In my experience, DPI makes a great work. When you enter, you are a co-editor, for example, you see the proposals of how many people may be possible reviewers for a single work. That is to say, your work may be, you see how many papers a single reviewer published on that field, and you can decide, you can suggest. The second, please never be a reviewer, a full reviewer in something you don't know very well. You know, I refused in the last days 2 works on things I know up to nothing. And the third, it's an open question. What do you think, which is the policy of MDPI on artificial intelligence, which is a question mark? Because are we able to understand exactly when a reviewer used the artificial intelligence or not? And this may be an open question also for the other speakers of today.
In terms of MDPI, we have dedicated assistant editors that will review each review that gets submitted. And if we do suspect that the review has been AI written, we have a dedicated AI team that will double check the review and make an evaluation whether it's been written by AI. If it is a case where it's been written by AI, we will approach the reviewer again and ask them to provide some more specific comments and to try and give some further feedback for the reviewers. If it's a case where they provide more constructive comments, then we will forward this to the authors. But if they don't, we will then make a note on the system that they have used AI, and we will not invite them to review again.
All right. When you, in some cases, I have a decision with 3 different reviewers. One saying the work is fantastic. The second needs a major revision. The third reject the work, which is very problematic in this case, because you have to decide, and 2 reviewers have read completely different things. One, it's a good work, the other is completely wrong. I think in these cases, you propose a fourth reviewer, another one. You can include another one, but the final decision is always from the editor, I think. You have to decide, you have to read by yourself.
If we do have a case where one reviewer accepts and then another rejects, we'll also invite another editorial board member to make a decision on the paper, or our editor-in-chief. So we'll always have two final decisions just to make the process as fair as possible.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. So we have another question. I think it's for me. My past experience with MDPI as a guest editor was excellent, but the main problem is the cost. How can we have an approach to the potential authors with a high quality of papers, but paying 1,500 to 2,000 euros is impossible? MDPI, we understand that for many researchers, funding can be an issue, which is why we do provide review vouchers. So if we have any authors that would like to submit, but they might not have the funds, if they would like to review for us, we do provide vouchers which they can put towards the price of the APC, and they can be stacked together. Additionally, we do also partner with a number of universities across the world. It's called our Institutional Open Access Program, and authors that are affiliated with these universities get an additional 10 to 20% discounts on every paper that they submit, and they don't have to be a corresponding author. So I think these are also strategies that we do use to try and lower the costs for our authors. We have another question here. Most of the special issue topics are kept very focused, leading to very few papers. What is your suggestion? So I think this question is open to the floor. Would anybody like to jump in? Yes, Dr. Campbell?
Yes, well, I think this is a question which was addressed in my presentation, so to say, very much at the beginning, focusing on the so-called topical framing of a special issue. So it's the question, how do you balance the deepness on the one hand with the breadth on the other? Yes. So meaning, I mean, this is not something trivial, yes, but it is, so to say, it's one of the big challenges. I mean, the one thing, of course, to do this is to say, even if empirically said, the focus is specific, that at the same time, at least something like a broader conceptual framing is being also provided, and it's a conceptual framing then which allows for interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary or transdisciplinary connections and cross connections. Yes, but this is the art, so to say, of designing a special issue to connect these two spheres of being specific and being broad, and this should result in an interesting topic for a special issue.
Yeah, thank you. We have some more questions related to AI. So Maria asked, do any of the speaker or panels have any advice about the AI using as help tools? Currently, many young researchers, students, teachers are using this as a tool for generating information such as diagrams, schemes, and even English corrections. So this appeared in the checking of plagiarism, and it is becoming complicated in the moment to take decisions. Any information, suggestions, or any others how to address this issue, which level is acceptable or not acceptable? From MDPI's standpoint, we do allow authors to use AI. However, they do have to declare in their manuscript, in the cover letter, exactly where they use the AI and why. And this also has to be mentioned in the acknowledgement section as well of their manuscript, as well as the methodology. So we have to, for our perspective, our authors have to be very clear so that reviewers and authors understand that AI was used during the manuscript preparation. For our reviewers, we don't allow them to use AI at all. This is something that we find completely unacceptable. But if any of the speakers have any insights into the use of AI and how to judge if it's acceptable or not, would be welcome.
may I make a comment to AI business?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, every time if I read something, when I search something in Google, the part the AI gives you, if you read it, always you realize you cannot make a simple copy and paste of the whole report. So you get there some information, but when they try to go a little bit deeper or to more specific, they are almost out of the actual question. So I think I cannot imagine that a referee uses copy and paste the first abstract he gets or she gets from the AI. Is an issue, but I think you can recognize it easy.
Yeah, I definitely
Maybe,
think AI is something that you have to read carefully and make sure, because the information isn't always correct in it.
Mary, may I make a comment on the two last questions? The
Absolutely.
first is of the special issues, maintaining a very focused proposition. That's what I said. If you speak, if you propose to publish something on a very small topic, you risk to have few works, maybe of a high quality, but you are unable to propose so many people to publish works. The second, on artificial intelligence, I'm not an expert, admittedly. At the end of your review, you ask, did you use artificial intelligence? And you must, at the end of the page, you must decide, no, I never used artificial intelligence, which is otherwise somehow useful for the editor. I don't know if in any question artificial intelligence gives a larger and complete opinion of what you are reading or of what you are searching. In some cases, the replies are completely different, and you have to arrange things otherwise, which is much more complicated. So it's a double cut weapon, the fact of using artificial intelligence.
Yes, absolutely. And we have another question. So Sharma said interdisciplinary special issues have more potential, but they are challenging to draft and also more complex to define. Please comment. So for MDPI, from our perspective, we also do run topics. So this might be something of interest. So they are essentially like special issues, but they're run between two different journals, which is why we call them topics. So if you have a very interdisciplinary topic that you'd like to run a special issue in, and it doesn't fit specifically with one journal, but maybe across two different ones, we can open a topic which can kind of help combat this challenge. Any other questions or comments? Of course, if anybody thinks of any questions, you can always email the editorial office and they'll be happy to assist you with any queries that you might have. If there are no more, I think we can leave it at that for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Of course, you can access your certificate of attendance through SciForum. And also, we would really appreciate your feedback on the webinar and ways that we can improve future ones. So we would be delighted if you could fill out the survey. It only takes a couple of minutes to give us your opinion on the webinar.